My mic is off. All right. Good start. Hey, everybody. I am Kurt Wooker Jr. This is the CoinGeek Weekly Livestream, and I am shouting into the microphone. Everybody, if you can do the like, the subscribe, the hit the alert bell, all of that jazz, I'd really appreciate it. I want to give a shout out to the folks who made the Bitcoin Citadel shirt over at Defiant Color. These are going to be for sale at some point soon. Everybody, we got Pitts in the troll box here in the private chat. Okay, so we're gonna have a fun show today. Maybe actually I should have probably checked this before we went on the air, but maybe my most frequent guest of all time, probably. I think it's probably true. Mr. Jack Pitts will be on today, and he will be talking a bit about SLictionary, and he's got a new thing coming up that he wants to share with everyone that I'm excited to bring onto the air with him, but also we're going to be talking about some of the interesting stuff going on. If you check my CoinGeek article this week, which I didn't pin to my Twitter because I just didn't get to it, you should read my article. So I talked a little bit about why maybe everything's a security. Maybe even Bitcoin's a security, depending on how you see Bitcoin, how you define it, and actually how the SEC is likely to define it. But also, I'm excited to talk to Jack about this because the coolest thing about Mr. Pitts is not only his suits and his cool haircuts and his consistently verbose but also entertaining storytelling, but he also has a career of experience on Wall Street, dealing with a lot of the nonsense that led to basically the stuff that Bitcoin sort of burst onto the scene in 2008. Like all the consequential stuff is basically Wall Street, and then just like a lot of things, it's still kind of Wall Street. But the SEC and FINRA and a bunch of other things, the FTC, are all sort of intertwined into a bunch of that stuff going on there too. Brandon, I can't see you in the private chat. If you're there, you go. Okay. So he was working on it. All right. So for everybody, read my article. Definitely like, subscribe, hit the alert bell. If you're watching live, and I really hope you are, please let me know in the comments here. And also, if you could go ahead and have questions and stuff ready for Mr. Pitts. Like I said, we're going to talk about SLictionary, but we're going to talk about a bunch of interesting stuff, like market-wide, deep cover, CIA. No, probably not CIA, but we'll get there too. So, Brandon, if we have an ad queued up, I'm guessing the ad is probably London Blockchain Convention, maybe a little of this, maybe a little of that. And we should do that. So, Brandon, if we are ready, we'll be right back with Mr. Pitts after this.
We're creating something epic that brings a new light to the world. The London Blockchain Conference draws everything in. Renowned experts, investors, regulators, global media, developers, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, coming together to network, share ideas, and make a difference. Delve into the most engaging discussions about blockchain utility. Explore this technology and learn why you need to bring your enterprise or government body onto the blockchain. The London Blockchain Conference is focused on solutions. It enlightens. Blockchain enables and encourages innovation. Discover and learn about true blockchain-based applications only at the London Blockchain Conference. Will you be part of this revolution?
So jazzy. How you doing, Jack?
Hey, Kurt. How you doing? Good to see you as always.
Yeah, likewise. I'm always well. I'm in a nicely air-conditioned back room here, the Blue Room, as hopefully for obvious reasons. But rocking and rolling here. It's about 85 degrees outside, which is a little hot, but it's nice and pleasant where I'm at. You're in a new background. Is this a new room for you, or?
This is my conference room.
Ah, okay. I like it.
Yeah. Try and keep it simple.
That's a nice paint. Did you paint that background? The painting there?
I did not. That came from the first beach house my parents ever rented, and we stayed there so long that the owner gave us the painting. So
I like that. Very cool. So, Jack, you are a purveyor of many things, not the least of which is access to the world's greatest dictionary, insights about the history of all kinds of things. Frankly, you're one of those guys when I think I'm going to catch you with a funny story, and then you finish my anecdotes because you know so much about so much that I'm less impressive. And while that may be a little bit difficult on my ego, I think it's good for me and good for the audience usually.
Not true. I just happened upon I think it's a video that you created about it's almost the entirety of the history of Bitcoin, and where you tie in ancient money and all kinds of things. It's really good.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
I mean, I consider myself a student of money, commodities, securities, all these things. And I love a good trip through the past. So,
thank you. Was it the one with the pink and the blue backgrounds quite a bit? Very Miami style?
Probably, yeah. I'm not even really sure when you made it because I was caught by surprise. I saw it maybe a couple weeks ago. Someone had mentioned it somewhere. I think it's my
recent Bitcoin 101. We do that presentation now every 2 weeks live in person at the Citadel. So if you want to bring friends, it's a really good way to get immersed, and then we take Q&A off the air. So it's fun for everybody.
Well, other than the big block debate of, whatever it was, 2013 kind of time frame, I don't have much reference to a lot of that stuff, and I go to you to get it. So
well, thank you. So, Jack, let's talk about SLictionary. In my opinion, one of the most important businesses, actually maybe ever. Let's even take away the blockchain aspect of it. But and I mean that in all seriousness. So I'm really not trying to blow smoke up your jacket here. But in reality, like there is nothing more important, truly, I think, to the grandiosity of the British Empire and ultimately everything in the Western Hemisphere. I think it had a lot to do with the fact that there was just a king at some point that said, you know what, we're not doing anything in Latin anymore. We're going to start doing stuff in English. We're going to be and then it kind of turned into, also, we're not Catholic. We're going to be our own church. We're going to so there was this kind of grandeur about being English that I think allowed such a small island of people to control like 2/3 of the planet over time. And so I actually do think there is an immense, but probably incalculable value to the language itself, and the science of the language. Like that's the real beauty of it, in my opinion. So the science of language and communication and our ability to communicate in the colloquial, here's a good word for you, that is super important. And this is actually what I've always liked about you, even since before I met you. The first time I heard about the concept of SLictionary, it's brilliant to me. I actually think your business idea is brilliant. So, and I mean this in all seriousness. This is, again, not blowing smoke up your jacket. So, let's talk about. I think if people people who've seen, you've been on the show. I think this has got to be maybe the fourth time you've been on the show here, but
yeah, I'm like the Alec Baldwin of Saturday Night Live. I just keep
yes, no, love it. So, like, we've already gone over the basics of SLictionary, but you have this new module or product or aspect of the company that you wanted to share. Do you want to explain it first? Should we jump right into a screen share? How would you like to go about it?
Yeah, let me just give you the one sentence elevator pitch, and then I'll explain why we think it really ties into everything we're doing, and it really goes deep into Bitcoin as well. So I think it's really, really neat. In a sentence, we're introducing something we call SLebrity word auctions. Okay. And the question I would pose to you is, if you could own the definition of basketball written by You pick it. Do you want to go? Who's your GOAT in basketball? Bill Russell, Michael Jordan?
Dude, I'm from Chicago, man. It's all Michael Jordan.
What am I thinking? Of course. You're going to love one of our pages that's our example page for what's going to start on March 15th. It does start. It has already started, actually. The nominations for our celebrities have already started. But in one sentence, how much would you pay if you could own the one and only definition of basketball written by Michael Jordan? And regardless of whether I think we're going to be super successful, but let's say we aren't, it is going to be etched on a Bitcoin, right? And you're going to own it for as long as you want. You can sell it to somebody as an artistic artifact if you like, but it's something better than an autograph. It is Michael Jordan promising you that he will do his very best to define basketball for you with a picture or a GIF. It could be him dunking. Who knows? Maybe it's him playing defense. Maybe Scottie Pippen really had a big influence on him.
Sure.
But even more so, it's his audio. So we could lose every little bit of thing about Michael Jordan's voice on YouTube, and yet we would still have this voice in his definition of basketball on the blockchain etched forever. So what I would say to you is, your recording of Michael's voice talking about basketball will probably outsurvive almost everything else when the world burns someday, right? Because as we know, Bitcoin's distributed, kind of decentralized. You say it in the right way that Craig would define it, I guess. But it's decentralized and distributed. And the whole idea is that helps preserve the network and what's on the network. And that would be your custom owned NFT of Michael Jordan defining basketball on a Bitcoin that sits in your wallet.
Yep.
What would you pay to own that and be able to flash it like you flash pictures of your kids at the local party?
It's incredible. It's like busting out your Babe Ruth baseball, but
better because it's a one of one, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if people know the history of NFTs in this, digital tokens sector that we have, but
to some degree.
Yeah. But the biggest, we can debate about what the first NFT was, but the most popular one, the one that kind of popularized it, was NBA Top Shots. And basically NBA Top Shot's still around.
Second show in a row that Top Shots have been brought up, by the way.
Well, it's an important history. It's like crypto.
It is. No, it really is.
Right? And what they did was they did stuff like you can get a picture of a Steph Curry drop back three. You can get a picture of LeBron James dunking. Now, most of them are one of 99. Okay.
Yep.
So there's 99 versions of a GIF where LeBron dunks. And it's sort of like the old baseball cards, or I guess the younger guys, Pokemon, whatever. But it's one of 99. And you don't actually own the video clip. So you don't say, well, if anybody wants to see this dunk ever again, like the famous, some of these famous Jordan dunks that are iconic.
Yep.
No, you don't get to license it out. You don't own anything. All you own is a one of 99 non-share of a picture that moves a little bit. And for some reason, people are paying 4 and 5 figures for these things still. And they were higher 2 years ago when they came out in the beginning of 2021. We're offering a one of one, the only definition of Michael Jordan written by him and entered into the blockchain by him on a coin that was basically in his possession when he created the definition. And it goes from him to you. And then you can do with it whatever you want. You can delete it if you like. You can redeem it. Actually, you wouldn't be able to delete it. You could redeem it for the underlying Bitcoin. We usually put millions of bits, or Satoshis, as most people say, underneath the coin. So it will redeem for something. It's kind of like, there's land value and then there's the value of the building.
Sure.
The definition of Michael's like the building, and the underlying Bitcoin that it sits on, the millions of sats, is like the land.
It's the land. Sure.
Right. So you can redeem it. You can transfer it to your son. You can sell it. Okay.
Yep.
So it's just like any other NFTs in that respect. Now, what's different about ours is that ours sits on coin, and we're making ours such that we don't have to touch it. So you don't have to do anything with SLictionary. In fact, your Gorilla Pool will probably be one of the main entryways into moving, redeeming, and getting your NFTs from our dictionary, right?
Sure.
And once you have it, and maybe some other miners have it, then you won't need to deal with us. We're a marketplace for definitions. Now, Michael Jordan's definition of basketball is a definition, and it's according to our protocol of how we want the definition to be, which is kind of a universal protocol. It's not like we reinvented the wheel there.
Yep.
But you can move it off SLictionary. You can, you could do the weird collector thing and just only show it to your friends. Whatever you want to do.
Sure. Can I remint it as an ordinal like all the cool kids are doing this week?
You probably could, but you might run into some legal trouble because in this case, you would be the owner of that video of a dunk, or perhaps Banksy would put in a original painting, in which case you would own it. It would be on your coin, and it would be the only one. People could probably copy it, but then you could sue them. Right?
Sure. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Makes
So
sense.
that's the idea behind SLebrity word auctions. It's one of the cool things that makes us different from Wikipedia is our signature. When you define bananas or even Gorilla Pool, it's yours. You could use its pseudonym, but you can actually sign it, and that helps make the definition better, because when you read Bitcoin in Wikipedia, you don't know who wrote that.
Right.
It's really hard to figure that all out. It's
I mean, I can guess. I think he's a Blockstream co-founder and really doesn't like me, but
yeah, that's the funny thing is they don't even let you alter it, because there's a couple of highly paid people.
Right. The official open wiki contributors or
Right. And that's what makes us special, because who better to define basketball than John Naismith, who invented the game and wrote the original rules, which sold for a lot of money, by the way. There's a great 30 for 30 on that you can watch.
Nice.
I think it's the University of Kansas buys it back and puts it in their trophy case, and which is where he was the head coach.
Fascinating.
And then Michael Jordan, right? I mean, who better to define these guys than the greatest person who's ever played the game and the guy who invented it? Now, anybody can define it, and maybe I can define it better.
Yep.
But I may not outrank these people, because people want to come and say, well, yeah, Jack and Kurt, they define basketball and they played a little bit and they know something about it. They may even be, historians of the thing. But, Naismith defined the thing that he invented. So it carries credibility. And that's, I think, something that's lost in the encyclopedia and the dictionary, because somebody invented this fashizzle kind of, lingo. and there's a really cool etymology to that as to how it all happened, and Snoop Dogg popularized it and everything. But I think it's really cool to know that and find out just by looking it up in the dictionary.
Yep.
And every word has a reason as to why it was developed that way, especially in the English language, which isn't really that old in the history of mankind.
Yeah, no, it really isn't. Here's an interesting just segue. How does SLictionary verify the celebs themselves are the ones defining the word?
Well, it's via handshake agreement, and we basically have them contact with them. If we don't have contact with them, then it's really, then we wouldn't do it. So we're not going to do any celebrities. We're going to have a nominations page. We have a nominations page where you can nominate anyone. Now, it's probably best to nominate someone that's gettable. Yeah. We'll do everything we can to get the person on the top of the list. Yeah. When we get them, it means we have to have contact. So we're going to have contact. We already have contact with several local celebrities that have already agreed to do it. And one of which has already even sent me their definition of the thing that I told them I would nominate them for. I nominate 2 people. and so that's how it works. And yeah, sure. Could they cheat and hire a writer? I mean, look, the Babe Ruth story is one of the great autobiographies in sports.
Yeah.
If you haven't read that amazing story about a kid who grows up in an orphanage, becomes the greatest baseball player of all time. And it's always says, as told to Bob Considine. Now, Bob Considine basically wrote the book.
Sure.
But where did he get the stories from? I mean, I don't think Michael Jordan's going to completely have a completely hands-off thing on something that has his signature on it. And that's the whole point.
Sure.
Is it's not going to have somebody else's signature on it. It's going to have his. Mm-hmm. And so in a way, this is a way to get influencers, celebrities, people who are important to you to not only join BSV as a user of the utility of BSV, but also to make it fun to participate for everyone. And we think this generates interest in our dictionary, which, granted, we only have about 2,000 words. So it's not like you're coming to us because we're the great dictionary in the world right now. We're the greatest dictionary platform.
Yep.
We hope to be the greatest dictionary ecosystem as we add wordsmiths and investors and all the people we want to be part of our ecosystem. But we're not the best dictionary yet. We're the best dictionary platform. And we think we will be the best dictionary in the future. But one of the ways that we want to do this is we want to generate entertainment and intrigue value in addition to the information. Because as I always like to say, when I was looking up a lot of words as a younger guy, studying for SATs and just trying to be, sound a little better. It's really almost heart sinking to have to look stuff up because it's like admitting you don't know something. And it's like,
sure.
Well, don't you speak English? Like, how do you not know that word? And we all, we know the guy who has the great vocabulary, and it's one of the few things that you can demonstrate to people openly about how smart you are. Like Neil Smith, who is part of the BSB community, has an amazing vocabulary.
Yep.
Craig has an amazing vocabulary. And it's like wearing your IQ out of your mouth. So that you can hear your IQ.
Absolutely. Well, it's funny. That's actually how I got into broadcasting. I was always impressed by people that could pull a quote out of their hat, especially a long one. If it was like a couple sentences long and then tell me who it was, I was like, as a 10-year-old Kurt was like, wow, I want to do that someday. And then the same thing with a long word. So it was exactly that. Like, wow, that person can just weave that thing right into a thought and and not look like they, making sure, hey, did I say that right?
Yeah.
And so it literally led to me. I asked my dad about it and said, Dad, how can I get good at that? And my dad recommended, he said, you know what? I've got some old George Carlin vinyl records. And he said, he was a man with a very good vocabulary and who was good at using it. So there's 10-year-old me listening to George Carlin, which, I came to learn, George can be a little crass and some other things, but he was this incredible wordsmith. And it led to me getting super addicted to listening to spoken word that got me into listening to lots of talk radio. So kind of an extension into how I got into this career myself. And I would like to express myself well. And really it's that. It's that ability to be smart, look smart, talk smart, and be able to just rattle stuff off. Like, be a subject matter expert and get out there and let people know. So all that to say, no, I agree with you, and it is a great way to make your IQ instantly obvious.
It's funny, I learned the word guacamole, which nobody really ate in 1977 when I was 6 years old.
Sure.
But somewhere around 9 or 10, he's talking about losing his banana guacamole. And I for probably 10 years, I didn't know what that was till I finally had it in some Mexican restaurant in California.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
But let me show you. So I think
please.
The thing that's really exciting about celebrity word auctions is that we're all going to get to participate either in the nomination process, which is as cheap as a penny. You can nominate any celebrity you want. You can nominate, somebody that's just important in your little area or niche of your world. Mm-hmm. And we'll go down the list from whoever receives the most nominations. And like anything in Bitcoin, the nominations cost money. And so it's not just going to be, well, you can vote your buddy up and hack the system. I mean, you can. It's going to cost you some money.
Sure.
And then let me open it up here. And I don't think I'm authorized because the share button is not.
You should be able to, if you go to the bottom center, there should be present.
Oh, that's the one. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. It's not
letting you present.
Nope.
Should say share screen. It should let you share screen.
It's the share thing. Oh, that somebody enabled it.
There we go. Let's go, Brandon.
Okay, what do you see? Do you see it?
Brandon, you need to push it onto. Yeah, there we go. Now we see it.
Okay.
The world sees what we see, Jack.
Okay. So I'm going to make it nice and big. This is SLictionary, our main site. We've added these buttons as a convenience to get to places. The plus button takes you to our smithing page where Michael Jordan will create the word basketball and put in a video, audio, and describe it, maybe even come up with the etymology. The next button here is the WB, which does not stand for Warner Brothers or a TV channel. It stands for Word Bounty. And this is where you can make money rather quickly. It takes about a week and you've got to produce quality content, but you can come here and define war and compete with other people. Somebody from Twitch, I think, put up Zoid, who's some kind of NFT maker. And I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but people are competing for that. And we pay every Friday the winners of the contest, and you get to vote. So if you press Zoid, you can define it. That one hasn't been defined yet. And this one for gravel bike, you can come here and vote. If there's more than one entry to win that bounty, then you can go vote for the one that you like the best and help that person win. The next button is our little flag there. That will be where all the languages that are not English are posted. And we did the toughest one first, which is Arabic, which is why everything's backwards.
Yep. I was going to say, did you like, it's going to be Arabic or Mandarin are going to be your worst time. So.
Yep. And so we figured, since most languages are pretty easy, people are already putting words in their other languages, but we figured we do the hardest one first since it's all backwards.
Yeah. Well.
The next one, and this is where you get to SLictionary, you press this gavel button and it takes you to the SLebrity area. Now that's nice. My co-founder, John D. Fleece, having a little fun with everyone. We like to violate all the walls of Bitcoin, or all the walls of everything. So I always talk about price. That violates what I call the fourth wall of Bitcoin. I like to violate all the rules for websites. The first of which is our home screen, which moves with the vortex. And you're not supposed to do that. And you're not supposed to have any audio that plays automatically without being muted first. And we violated that too. We violate everything.
It's good stuff, man. Reminds me of MySpace back in the day.
Where you had your music on your homepage, right?
Which, 5 years ago I would have said like, man, MySpace was trash. But now I'm thinking back, it's like, you know what? I might have had like the happiest years of my life when MySpace was the biggest website in the world. So let's roll it back, man.
I liked MySpace. I liked it better than Facebook.
I did too.
Yeah. Okay, so in the future, when you get to our screen for SLebrity, you're going to come right to the auction. So this is just an example. We don't have Michael Jordan, unfortunately, yet. We will someday. But let's just say the first celebrity was going to be Michael Jordan. This is just basically an eBay auction. And what it allows anyone to do is bid for that NFT, the one of one of Michael Jordan defining basketball. And so we think this one would probably go into at least the $10,000 mark, probably higher. I know I would bid that much. So, and I know people that I've already asked about our concept, and I know they would too, and they would bid quite a bit of money for Craig's definition of Bitcoin, and there's several others. And so this auction basically allows anyone to attempt to win. And it'll be up for, I think the first one will be 2 weeks, and then it'll be up for a whole month. And you can come in and you can put in a max bid. It works just like eBay. I've always been a huge fan of eBay, and I love auctions of all kinds. It's one of my kind of pastimes to study them. And so I'm super happy to be able to create one myself that makes sense for our business.
Yep.
And so this is where you would win the auction, and you can put in, every bid has to be 20% higher, and it starts at $2. And so we'll just see where it goes. Now, how do we pick the celebrity of the month? Because we're only going to do one a month. And the way we do that is we start on what we call the nominations tab. These are our 3 tabs up here. You can see if you press the auction, you get to the auction of the month. We have leaderboard and nominations. And nominations, we started with the release of the Charles Miller video we did. And there's already a bunch of people in there. I think you're actually one of them somewhere.
I'm on the list. I'm down a little bit, down a ways, but there we go.
So if someone's put in 3 cents. So what I'll do is I'll upbid you for bananas, and being the rich man I am, I'll put my 2 cents worth in, and I'll upvote you. And that will immediately, now you're no longer 3 cents. Look, you've moved up the list. You're now above Dr. Lucas Murray, which is the guy I nominated, and George Gilder.
Nice.
Hey, you're above Peyton Manning and Dr. J.
And just below Mike Tyson. Yeah. Perfect.
So you're moving up in the world. Now, we will pick from the top of the list. And oh, by the way, who do you want to nominate? I'll do one for you. Tell me anyone you can think of.
I would love to have Vince Vaughn participate in anything that has to do with language. So what's a good word for him to define? Comedy?
All grown up, maybe?
Yeah.
Make me watch Lil Wayne's head bleed. Let's think of some of his quotes.
Yeah, let's see. What's a good Vince Vaughn quote?
Let's just say, what was the one where he was Jennifer Aniston and he was getting a divorce? The breakup.
The breakup, yep.
Breakup. Okay, so we'll put Vince Vaughn in. I hope I spelled that right. For 1 penny.
Vaughn or
Yep,
GN? GHN, yeah.
Nailed it.
Nice.
Okay, so Vince is now competing. Now, the history so far, we've only had like less than a week of this.
Got a few guys commenting. Motorboating, earmuffs.
Earmuffs would be perfect.
Earmuffs is perfect.
Yeah. Who said earmuffs?
Free knots. That's Alex Vidal.
Alex, you have a future in SLictionary for sure. You got it on. You got it on, baby. So the history so far, which is kind of fun, I'm trying to announce it. Announcing is another one of my favorite things for sports events, and I'm trying to do a bit of like written announcing on Twitter about who's taking the lead. The first leader was Craig Wright. My partner B. Felice put him up for $1. I told him it was too much money. I just want it to be pennies initially.
Yep.
So that everybody can feel good about voting for their favorite and having a chance of it advancing quickly.
Yep.
I put up Dr. J, which is a local Philadelphia favorite athlete, up for $1 penny, and Dr. Lucas Murray, who introduced me to the word Dionysiac. See, I'm waiting for him to define it so I can even say it.
Yep.
And he has a whole book about it, which is really cool.
I don't know who he is or what that word means. So this is an opportunity.
He's a professor at Yale, and he wrote a big kind of history book on this thing, and you just have to read it. Anyway, he's a big BSV fan, and I think he agreed to definitely do it. So if we have to go through this whole list and everybody says no, at least he'll do it. But we have others.
Yes.
I think you're coming close to outranking him, so you might do bananas in the month before he does his word.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, the history so far was Dr. Wright was first, and then he was overtaken by none other than Emily Ratajkowski. I'm not sure I'm saying that right because she's not of my era.
My wife is Polish. She's actually corrected me. It is Ratajkowski.
Ratajkowski. Yeah, so the J is like an I.
Yes.
The AJ is like an I.
Yep, and the W is a V.
Well, she's a very pretty model. I've since learned who she is, and I think she is related to the person who not related directly, but person who nominated her has knowledge of her, and so she may actually be game. She may be the first one. And
I met her at a CoinGeek event, actually. So she's
you did? Okay.
Yeah. She's there's pictures of her with like Calvin and stuff. So yeah,
perfect.
She's a doll.
She's a doll. She'd be a great first celebrity. Now she took over from Craig, and then someone nominated Patrick Bet David, who you know very well because you did a great interview with him where he crushed it.
Thank you.
Describing BSV versus the non-Bitcoin of BTC. And he had the lead for a little bit. And then someone named Dr. Samantha Bailey, who I believe is big in the COVID media world, probably banned on YouTube. She's from New Zealand, and she's on a TV show called, not The Practice, I don't know, it's a word having to do with medicine. And there's like 3 seasons on the New Zealand main, like the equivalent of the BBC in New Zealand. So she's a local celebrity.
Cool.
And then Emily came back. I guess other people voted her up, and so she's still number 1. So we'll see. We'll see if any of these people, I suspect these top 4 are definitely doable. Justin Bieber, probably not for a little while.
Yep. Ken Jennings, how much of a celebrity is he? I mean, I know him from Jeopardy, but has he catapulted himself to like hosting Spike TV shows and stuff, or what's he up to?
Not my generation.
Does Spike TV still exist?
No, Pat Sajak is the guy I know.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm like that old guy who's telling you like who was before Johnny Carson. Actually, to most people, they don't even know who Johnny Carson is. They're like, oh,
yeah,
Jay Leno.
Johnny Carson's been dead for like 25 years, Jack.
Oh, I date myself all the time. I've stopped trying to not to. So, but anyway, please come. Put your 2 cents in worth. Vote for someone who's on the list. Put a penny towards that, and then put your own favorite celebrity in and see how it does. Who knows? People may back you up on it, and this will stay here like this until we remove someone. And we'll only remove someone if we've gotten them to agree to do the definition. So let's say we get Emily to do it. We'll remove her and her $3.64 or whatever it amounts to be at the end of this month, by March 15th. Is when the nomination period will be over and we'll have selected someone.
Yep.
And then we're going to nominate. Then we're going to run the auction. And the auction, of course, looks like this. Looks like this, which we've already showed. And so this would be Emily Ratajkowski, and instead of basketball, it would be bikini. And you would get to own it. And so from Emily to you, I'm sure it would be hopefully a great bikini picture of herself. So in a way, that's something valuable right there. And if she's really smart about it, she would make it a 1-of-1 picture, right?
Yeah.
Like actually take a new picture that has
an
never
exclusive
been issued before.
Yep.
And it would be exclusive to that person who's bidding in the auction to own. And I think that's pretty cool, right? That's like Michael Jordan doing a dunk on his backyard like basketball net and defining dunk or something, right? That'd be really cool. Like, and he did that for you as the person who bid it up. Now, so the first question is, what do we do with the money? And there's 2 pieces of money involved in this thing. So the first piece is, what do we do with the $3.64? And because there's a way to kind of hack this, if what we wanted to do was just give it to the celebrity as, here's some money to cover your expenses of the fact that you have to spend 5 minutes defining a word. And if we did that, it would be easily hackable. And so we just put in the terms of service that we'll decide what we do with it. But what we want to do with it is just put Emily's name up for $3.64. And the reason that's kind of interesting is we just added our first kind of shot across the bow, or our beachhead, into encyclopedic information by adding what's called a part of speech as a person. Now, I have things in here like my family members that are in SLictionary. You won't find them because I've basically made it so you have to search the exact thing. Yeah. And so only I can find it. That's an upcoming product called Private Dictionary coming soon, probably in a couple months, as to how that works. And that makes us kind of special. But we basically think that people will be one of the first big Wikipedia entries into our system. And so what we'd like to do is highlight that by taking the nomination money and putting that into our word bounty, which is here. And instead of war at $4, you might see Emily Ratajkowski for $3.64 or more. It could be hundreds of dollars for all we know. We don't really know what the nominations page will bring. until you guys show us what it'll bring. We have no
Yep.
idea. But that will be a bounty winnable by anyone. And that's what's cool is the money you're putting up, well, actually, it really doesn't go to us. We'll take a tiny, I think we take a 2.99% cut of the word bounties, and 97% of it, or I think it's 90%, goes to the winner of the word bounty.
Nice.
And so everybody will get a chance to impress Emily by writing up something about her.
That's great.
And last part is after the auction's over, which means on this page, somebody wins. Let's say basketball goes for $10,000. Then most of that money, if not all of it, also goes on word bounty. And so you might actually have, or we might actually host a $10,000 bounty for Michael Jordan's basketball. And that means all of you can define basketball, and Michael won't be allowed to win. So it will be a winner decided by everyone else to compete with Michael Jordan's definition, and the winner will get the full amount. And I think that's really cool because it basically the celebrity provides a modicum for people to participate in the system and get rewarded by being a great, what we would call an iSports athlete or artistic and intellectual sports person who's really good at writing definitions, or in this case, a biography or what have you. And so
Very cool.
Basically all the money that comes in pretty much goes right back out. We're taking a tiny cut of things just to keep the platform going.
Yep.
And the other thing that the celebrity can do is we're going to let them allocate some of the money. So let's say basketball does go for $10,000. We're going to let the athlete decide if some of that goes to charity. So, Michael could favor his local charity by auctioning this off. And that would make it great for events such as like CoinGeek London, where when you guys do all your hard work, Alex and et cetera, and they get these great guys like Adrian Grenier or George Gilder, if you can get them to agree to a celebrity word bounty, we'll do it right during the conference that month of May.
Yep.
And it'll be a fun thing for people to do at the conference to see if they can, win the auction. And we'll start the auction the day the conference starts, so everybody can start defining the word. George Gilder, I think, is up for time. So if we had that conference, everybody would get to put their definition of time in and compete to see if they can write a good one. And then the last part is the leaderboard. And the leaderboard is really cool to us because if I expand this picture a little bit, this is the most popular people in the world based on Twitter follows, or it might be Instagram follows, depending on which one is your bent. This one's Twitter. So you have Barack Obama, Elon Musk, Justin Bieber, Katy Perry, Rihanna, et cetera, et cetera. And this is an interesting way to rank who the most popular people in the world is. And I think this is pretty close to accurate. But somebody on this list, I believe, is guilty of a little bit of gerrymandering their follows, right, with bots and all that sort of thing.
Yep.
Make themselves look higher. And that helps their career. And it's a little bit of a cheat code, and I don't like it. So I think what's cool about these auctions is you really get to find out, like, through a monetary means of, who's going to get a higher auction? Michael Jordan defining basketball, or maybe we can get Banksy to secretly define art.
Yeah.
And I think it would be really cool for them to have a board they could check. And that's what the leaderboard is going to be. So it's not up yet until we have the second one done, which will be in April. But it'll be kind of fun because the 3 C's, Kristen, Craig, and Calvin.
Can we start calling them the C-suite?
What's that?
Can we call them the C-suite officially? Can we make that? Can we make that a thing?
We can make that a word bounty. I'll make it a word bounty right after this.
Love it.
Put it up for $10. Come and define C-suite and impress us. So one of those guys, they could be sitting around having drinks and they could say, where are you on the leaderboard?
Sure.
And, it could be a bit of a pissing contest, but whatever. I mean, we don't care. It's all in good fun. And I think there'll be a lot of it will be for charity. And it's just a way to develop intrigue for the dictionary. So that's that's celebrity word auctions. And I think it'll just, it's just something to talk about and give people something to do that's exciting for people in the BSV ecosystem to watch people come in. So when when you have a Danny Trejo or, come in and define machete, I just think it'll be fun, right?
Yep.
And let me stop sharing.
There we go. Jack, I think in the pre-show we decided that your presentation was going to be 10 minutes long. So, but super, again, I should reiterate, I really think that this is great. I think a lot of people might look at it at first glance and say, okay, it's a dictionary, and then not realize how many dictionaries do you have in your house? I think that's a question that everyone should ask themselves and really think. I think even younger millennials and Zoomers or whatever, I think most of them would say, well, I don't have a dictionary, but I bet if you go digging, you can probably, I bet most houses have more than one. And so I think it just indicates it's like the Bible at the hotel. It's like who penned that deal? Because whoever did sold a lot of books to everyone. And so it's I think it's one of those things that is like, it's never going to come across as, hey, red carpet. Here's Jack Pitts, founder of SLictionary. Like, he's walking with Emily Ratajkowski. What are you wearing tonight, Jack? Right. But at the same time, it's maybe the most important thing in Western culture. So,
well, the cool thing is we're going to be able to document how words change so that when we're all speaking Oceanic, we'll know how English influenced Oceanic language, right?
Yes.
And by the way, we'll soon not have to carry dictionaries around. The mobile site is up here, the little light bulb.
Yeah.
And it's up and running. And I defined mohos here for Satoshi Doodles on it. And our insiders are using it now to define words. And actually, right now, it's free to participate in the word bounties, which are all listed here. And so we're having a little bit of fun with it with a small, tight group. You'll be in that group soon, Kurt.
Nice.
And we're going to roll it out slowly. And, there's reasons why it's been delayed, having to do with Apple and wallets.
No, for sure. Oh, I know. No, but never underestimate California tech companies.
Oh, and I forgot. The coolest thing about how SLictionary can onboard muggles, which is you can look that up in SLictionary. It's my word for people who don't use Bitcoin and never have. And those are, I think, our future in 2023 and 2024 is to bring on as many muggles as possible. And the cool thing is, if we can get these auctions up high, Craig Wright Bitcoin, Calvin Ayre Entrepreneur, whatever, if we can get them high enough, we'll get lots of participation. We've already proved that. And our record is a $500 bounty right now for world domination, and that got a lot of interest. And I think the coolest thing we've added is anybody can now enter the word bounty contest. So let's say Kurt Walkert's bananas goes for $1,000. Anybody can win that. But now it's really anybody, because we make it so that you can just enter your email address to try and win the $1,000. And if you win, we email you and say, well, now would you like a wallet? I mean, you didn't want to do a wallet before because it was too hard and whatever. Yeah. Onboarding's tough. Well, it's not tough anymore.
You put 8 minutes into it for $1,000. Yeah.
We actually already had some people enter for world domination, their email address. They didn't win, but they've won subsequent bounties. And so we're onboarding muggles. There's a guy, he's a Marine Corps sergeant in California who works at the Linguistics Institute for the Marines, if you can believe there is such a thing. There's a school there in Monterey, and he won one of the bounties, did a great definition, and he's a brand new BSVer. He knows nothing about it. He never used crypto before.
Interesting.
Yep. But he entered his email address, and I reached out, and I'm like, do you want to get paid? If you want to get paid, you're $10 or whatever, then you got to get a wallet.
We should plan a workshop down here at the Citadel. Maybe not for the summer, but a nice, maybe a November or something when some Northerners would like to get a little bit of sun on their skin, and put together a SLictionary workshop and invite all your linguistics celebrity friends and do a thing. So we've got an onboarding process here at the Citadel. So it's scan here to connect to Wi-Fi, scan here to download hand cash, all this stuff. Simplifies the whole process. All you got to do is hold your phone and point it at a QR code, and it does most of the work a couple of times. And then all of a sudden you got your wallets and you've joined some things. And then you put them in a room, you serve them a little bit of coffee and some snacks, and then you get the floor for an hour to give them the SLictionary black pill.
I heard Kristen say, you want to bring in the good people. Like, don't even bother with the bad people, which is most of the people in crypto, right? They're not the real ideal people for us, right? It's like we're a totally different breed. And the guy that won the $500 for world domination, give me 1 second. Let me just show you this thing that he sent me in the mail.
Oh, man.
And Kristen put it up, and he sent myself, Craig, and Kristen this thing that's world domination on a stick.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm so proud of it, and it's really the first physical representation of SLictionary that I've ever seen. His name is Nadir, and I think he's English. I wished he was like a Nadir in some really poor country and $500 like bought a house or something. But
sure,
probably not true. But the whole point is that it could be. And he was so appreciative. I still don't really know much about him, but he sent this thing in the mail. I was hoping it wasn't a bomb. It wasn't. He said, I don't think it was.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool. And I think we'll have a lot more of that. And the thing is, we onboarded him, and he's a great participant in the ecosystem because in a way he's building. He's not doing like the software building type, but he's getting paid to build the information that goes on to Bitcoin. And that's huge.
Which is the real, it's the real value.
Yeah.
So should we pivot to real value? And so you and I, just to give people a little bit of context, you and I talk not a ton, but I think we talk more than people might assume that we talk. And you always have these insights. And I always think of you first when I get if I'm up late and watching a little TV in the background or something, and I hear, a documentary about some boiler room in Wall Street or what, some Wall Street thing. And I always wonder, I'm like, where was Jack when that was happening? And so
Jack was in the boiler room.
Exactly. Well, this is
in the original Boom Boom room. Was one of my best friends who is actually, I shouldn't give out any more information, but he is a DSBer. And he is quoted in the original I think it's New York Times or New York Post article about the Boom Boom room, which is literally an article about the boiler room of the, I think, late 80s, early 90s.
Yep.
And his brokerage, where he's still, I can't give any more information, but
yeah, this is getting dangerous.
But he's a great guy. And the funny thing is that experience, sometimes it can ruin you. Sometimes it actually made him a super honest, like great human being just by witnessing all the nonsense. But
no, it's killer. So with that, to wrap up the context part, like you and I talk a lot about the nonsense that's going on in crypto because there's a lot of money and a lot of influencers and a lot of people that have .btc handles and stuff on Twitter that'll tell you, oh yeah, no, Tether's above board, Bitfinex is your friend, OKX is doing the Lord's work, and wouldn't you know they give money to your favorite children's charity and wouldn't you know it, CZ is just a wonderful son too. And and to me it's just impossibly infuriating. And I just tell people how this stuff works, and people tell me, well, how would you know? Have you ever done this kind of thing? Maybe you don't understand markets, Kurt, or you don't understand Bitcoin and some of these other things. And you're always one of those people who's the things that you say rattle around in my head. So when you talk about, hey, here's how this actually happened on Wall Street, like we have this presumption that it was always professional and these people are, not breaking the law. But if you actually look at history, you see how much, like the fact that the SEC even exists, for example, is a product of a bunch of people screwing a bunch of people or coming up with some new creative way to utilize an investment tool, a financial tool, to engineer themselves billions of dollars. And we're seeing actually a lot of a copy and paste of these same kind of things. I've even theorized that probably a lot of these people are daytimers at the big Wall Street firms. I mean, imagine you're a mid-level, super talented guy at a place like Goldman, and you see what you're not allowed to do at your day job, and, oh, but I could start an offshore market maker firm that does X, Y, and Z, and I got some friends in Eastern Europe and North Africa that are going to help me manage it, and wouldn't you know it, I'm selling JPEGs and tokens and all this stuff, and I've made millions of dollars off the books that nobody knows about. And it's such a sick and twisted economy, but I feel like in so many ways it's largely me and like 3 or 4 other people are the only people talking about it. But you have experience in both the crypto side of it and in the real world, the Wall Street stuff. So Jack, I would love to hear your thoughts. You were messaging me earlier about OKX in specific, but I think the industry in general. And I'd love to have you walk me through what you were saying about liquidity and what's actually going on there.
Okay. There's a guy named Amarillo Slim. He's a poker player, but he's really more famous for these bets that people make in Vegas. They're called proposition bets, and they're really weird bets. Like, he bets the best ping pong player in the world that he can beat him in ping pong if he can just pick the paddles. And the guy shows up and he picks Coke bottles, right? Which he's practiced with for like 4 straight months to get good at it. And he ends up beating the best ping pong player in the world with like Coke bottle paddles, right?
Yep.
So he does all kinds of weird stuff like that. And he always said in his book, and it's a very short autobiography, you should totally read it. It's a fun book. And he says, don't scam like the average Joe, because those people are the lowest form of life. If you're going to be a scammer, then you should only be scamming scammers, right?
Sure.
That's sporting, right? Okay, you're a scammer, I'm going to scam you, right? Now, these are proposition bets, so it's all kind of just fun and games. But I kind of take it from that page as do something big, right? Don't go for like small stuff. Go for like the hardest. Can you scam the biggest scammer out there? That would be Amarillo Slim. In my world, it's can you tackle the biggest problem out there? And I think Bitcoin's going after a huge problem, which everybody's pretty aware of, which is printing money and this fake money that we have these days and fiat and other things. Bitcoin obviously does a lot more. SLictionary, same thing. We're going after the whole English language, including encyclopedia. So it's a huge, huge concept.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing in crime. If you're gonna like point fingers at people, right, which is kind of a negative thing to do, and it can kind of ruin and consume your life, right? I know this because I was a short seller for 20 years, and I tracked fraud, right?
Yeah, sure.
And you know that when you go onto Twitter, you can either focus on the guy who just created a cool app, like Mr. Hula, who created the Noble app, which is on Android now for BSV.
Yep.
Or you can sit there and troll BTCers, right? And at the end of that hour that you spend on Twitter, that whether you've wasted your time or whether it was fruitful.
Yep.
And I think if you're going to point a finger, go after the biggest fish there is, because at least you're spending time in the right area. And to me, these criminals that are literally stealing from you are some of the richest people in the world, and billionaires, multi-billionaires. In fact, one of them might even be the richest person on the planet. And we've seen Pablo Escobar and drugs. And so it's not just exclusive to crypto. There's always a criminal who ends up being really rich.
Sure.
And so to me, these exchanges are the epicenter for these massive cryptocurrency criminals. And now we have the evidence in Sam Bankman-Fried. I don't need to postulate about it or write some of these articles I did on Medium, which are kind of hidden and have weird names that represent real people, but in sort of a Charles Bukowski way.
Yep.
I think you can now just point the finger right at the person because they're kind of in prison at the moment, right? So it's much easier.
Sure.
And if you look at something like Sam Bankman-Fried, he's not the only one. So let's you and I invent 3 classifications for an exchange that we can now talk about in BSV, which really barely even needs an exchange because the way it is a commodity. But let's classify 3 things. So we'll say the first kind of criminal is the guy who is going to rig the price. So like the Hunt brothers are going to corner the market in gold in the late 70s. If you read The Robber Barons by Josephson, great author, he talks about the Erie Railroad and how they used to run the printing press literally in the basement to screw the investors of the Erie Railroad, make the price go down. Then they buy all the shares, and then they let it go up again, right?
Yep.
Which is still done today. And I won't name names, but there's people still doing it.
Yep.
And so that's one way, rigging the price. The other way is what I would call, let's just call it HFT. So you can read Flash Boys by Michael Lewis and learn all about HFTs. And what they're doing is they don't have any knowledge of the thing that they're trading. They don't know the CEO's name. They don't know what the business does. They just know the ticker symbol and the fact that they know everybody who's coming in and out the door to buy it. And they just trade ahead of them, and they scrape money away, and they give you bad execution and sometimes no execution. And so it's a way of also stealing a ton of money by doing really dumb things like co-locating your trading server right next to the NASDAQ server so that your bid gets in earlier. And you and I talked about this, which the replace by fee, tell me when the date was for replace by fee, and then tell me when the date was, what's the other relevant date? Replace by fee allows this HFT concept using software, which is even super cheap. And it was done by the core developers, which is supposed to be responsible for the integrity of the system. And they're basically creating a system where a big guy can come in and make your transaction go to the end of the line.
Yeah. Yeah. And RBF. So RBF, replace by fee, was 2016. I think the argument about it probably started in 15. And then what that does is it allows you, if you have an unconfirmed transaction, you can pay, or whoever wants to pay more can accelerate their transaction even after you've already sent it. So it can be used to double spend, or it can be used to say, all right, anybody else willing to pay $1,000 to push their transaction, or $10,000 or whatever? Like, I can afford to be first. So it puts the whales in a spot where they can get their stuff confirmed on the exchange first.
Right. Which is exactly what an HFT does, right?
Yeah.
In just a smaller, different way. Mm-hmm. But this one's worse. Like, the way BTC do it is much worse. It's cheaper. You don't even have to buy the servers or co-locate or do any amount of expenditure, which they're literally rigging it for themselves because they're the big owners of the coin.
Yeah.
And you combine that with the 1 megabyte, and the 1 megabyte is what makes the replace by fee so important, because you're only going to get so many transactions in 10 minutes. And so you're making this, I hate it when I'm run a dictionary and I got the wrong, I'm only going with the word, but you're creating this caste system where the rich screw the poor, which again is against this Amarillo Slim concept of, have some integrity. And, if you're the bigger guy with more money, then you should be held to a higher standard and try and figure out how to make money legitimately instead of like robbing the little people. It's just insane.
Yeah.
So, number one, people who fix the price, and number two type of criminal, people that are trading ahead of you, right? Mm-hmm. And some of these exchanges are doing both, okay? And NFTs are doing both, right? When you issue one of 99 and only actually sell 3 of them, and then you wait for if the floor goes below a certain price, you then have your people bid on it, right?
Right.
This NFT stuff issuance is amazing.
Not even your people. You just use the wallet on your other phone.
Right. And the funny thing is, if you're selling the whole lot of 99, because that's how they do it, you got to get in there like in 3 seconds, it'll all be sold. And you've just maybe grabbed $100,000. Well, you can take tiny amounts of that, and every time someone tries to sell below the floor, you just buy it yourself, or you have your cronies buy it.
Yeah, you bid it up.
And you're rigging price. You're screwing people eventually. You may not screw them right now, today, tomorrow, next week.
Right.
But eventually, that stupid thing is going down if it doesn't have an economic basis to make it stop going down. Like a dictionary definition NFT, hopefully will have some income associated with it. As the traffic comes in to look up Michael Jordan's definition of basketball, it's going to have some income. And anything with an income will have a floor price where someone says, I'm willing to bid $1,000 for it because it brings in $1,000 in 1 year, and it'll bring up $1,000 the next year. So of course I'm going to pay $1,000.
Yeah.
Right. I'll make my money back in 6 months to a year. Mm-hmm. And so this is the whole dynamic here. And the last type of exchange is the non-criminal. The exchanges can just make money by charging you a fee, right? This is how Bitcoin works. They charge a little tiny 100th of a penny. And to you, it's nothing. But to them, all these things add up to real money. So that's what an exchange is supposed to do. They're supposed to run a fair marketplace
Yeah.
and charge us a little bit of money, and they do great, right? The more trading there is, the better they do. And I think you can classify every exchange you've ever heard of into these three, right? So go ahead, name an exchange that has traded BSV in the past.
Bitfinex.
I think after 2017, when they realized that AML KYC was going to happen and they're having to comply with things like, not rigging price and these things, they said, you know what, let's choose the light, right? Like my friend in the boom room, right? He could have went either way, and he's like, you know what, I'm going to learn from the experience. I'm going to choose the good way. I'm going to not screw my customers. And it turns out that because everybody else is screwing their customers and they use all the money they make to attract more, Bitfinex is kind of getting screwed right now. They were once the biggest exchange in 2017, and now they're kind of a nobody. They're still existing, thank God, but they trade BSV, and I think they're doing their best to make it a fair market. And I'm sure there's people in there that don't like BSV for the same reasons many people don't, but there's just as many people apparently in there that are trying to run a fair exchange. And if you look at their volume, they're probably like 5th right now, and they were probably like 20th a while ago, like even a year ago. But we're losing some of these exchanges, which is good. Everybody's like, oh, more exchanges, better for the price. No, a unfair exchange that's rigging the price. Which way do you think they're rigging BSV? I mean, everybody hates it. You think they're rigging it up so that we get more money for our startups, and so that people are attracted to it and they want to join as developers? No, they're rigging it down. They're suppressing it. It's down 90 some odd % from a year and a half ago.
Right.
So it's not getting rigged up. It's getting rigged down.
Yeah. And
it's very easy to do this. And I won't go into how naked shorting works, but when you sell derivatives on an exchange, it's super simple to rig on your exchange the price going down.
Right.
And then what you do is, since Masari and CryptoMarketCap.com, they all rank based on a basket of exchanges, and they weight it based on the exchange that has more volume. So if you're someone like, let's say, not ABC, but some other letters that you put together that form a word we all know and have maybe the letter O in it and maybe the letter K in it.
Yep.
If they want to make it look like their price is the most important, they just trade back and forth, wash trade, and they generate these huge volumes of $25 million a day. Do you honestly think anybody's trading $25 million a day of BSV on this OKX exchange, which is largely unregulated? Because if it was regulated, it would be like the one in the United States, then they could just have the same entity.
Sure.
The one in the United States is called OKCoin. And they very loudly, the CEO, this lady, I forget her name, but she wrote this kind of
right. She wrote a very nasty article.
Nasty article, passive aggressive, like a New York socialite kind of message that tells you that you're worthless without, in a sort of a nice way.
Right.
You're all a bunch of criminals and we have no respect for you. And yet the OK Group, which owns both OKCoin and OKX, they somehow allow BSV trading on the non-regulated exchange that they own, OKX.
Sure.
So why do you think OK Group would take it away from the place where if you get caught cheating, you're all going to jail by manipulating the price, but they allow it on the exchange that nobody knows where the hell it is in the world, along with Binance? Tell me where the headquarters of Binance is, and I'll send you $1.
Yeah, and CZ's
so
his hotel room.
You don't want, if we're going to run around saying that we don't like criminals, well, how about not liking the criminals that are literally stealing the capital out of the BSV ecosystem? And I see this personally. We have a fund called Pi01 Ventures. It's kind of like an angel fund. It sounds a little more glorified than that, but we're trying to pump money into some startups in BSV, get this thing going, right? Because we believe in it. And we take on investors, a lot of my colleagues from New York and whatnot. And the president of it is Len Mazer, my old Ditter podcast partner. And we literally saw investors who have billions to invest that are circling BSV for the last 3 to 4 years that walked away because Solana was going up 4,000%. BSV was being double spent attacked by Bitmart, another exchange. who didn't have any KYC AML despite being in New York City somehow, that nobody's ever heard of any of their investors. But one of their investors is Vitalik Buterin.
Right.
So explain that one to me. Explain that relationship. How the only exchange that had a problem with BSV that summer happened to be owned by the guy who hates Craig, hates BSV, and says all kinds of nasty things in public from his little pink mouth. Explain to me how that guy is somehow not involved in this Bitmart thing. And nobody from Bitmart apparently would talk to anybody from the Bitcoin Association, who's the issuer of the original Bitcoin.
Well, right. Especially amid a multi-million-dollar, alleged double spend attack, but also we're not answering the phone.
And that's a whole other episode as to what that attack really looks like. Because it's not about some pirate from Somalia stealing 3 million. Okay. That's actually about someone stealing billions.
Yeah.
And I wrote an article about it. It's a little bit hidden because I don't feel like getting sued for this. So it reads like a Charles Bukowski novel.
Send me the link, Jack. let me brush up. Send me that link.
You just go to my Medium page. You'll find it. It's basically the 211 on the 411 on the 2011, 2021, something. It's a bunch of numbers in it. You'll see it's a bunch of numbers.
Got it.
But the point is that these exchanges, if you don't know where they're headquartered and the United States is issuing them subpoenas, this would be Binance. This would be Bitfinex / Tether. This would be Robinhood, which is in the United States, but they hand over all their trading to Citadel for the cryptocurrency stuff. And by the way, when you trace all this stuff back, almost all of it ends up in Binance.
Yeah.
You're in Gemini. I trust the Winkle tossers. They're good guys. They're Harvard educated. They're not going to screw up their reputation. And who do you think the Winkle tossers at Gemini are sending their transactions to? Who? They were sending them to Genesis.
I was going to say, probably Genesis. Yeah.
Barry Silbert. This is the guy that literally is financing entire multi-million-dollar court cases against Craig while he's rigging the coin desk articles about those cases when the poor reporter who talked to you in the courtroom, actually you convinced her, I'm guessing this, but you must have convinced her hey, Craig's not a bad guy and take a look at this case. It's kind of going the way we expected. And she kind of wrote that article, and Barry literally showed his cards on Twitter by pulling that article. And do you think that Genesis, who is one of the few places that a financial firm in New York City or San Francisco could buy cryptocurrency, do you think that him listing BSV was to help BSV? Mm-hmm. Or was it for some other reason where he has a backroom deal handshake with some people in headquarters that nobody knows where they are on enormous exchanges that have all the liquidity? Because now it's starting to come to light that Genesis was pushing their transactions to Binance. Right. And who knows if that's through 7 shell companies. I don't know the details. I just know other people are doing the work.
Well, and that's the crazy thing too. I mean, how does Binance become, I call Tether or iFinex, I call them the Tetherable Reserve because I think it's a very apt name for what it is that they're doing. But then Binance is it's kind of like being like Bank of America or Citigroup or whatever. You get the dollars first, guys. And, wink, wink, nod, nod, and we'll hang out at Jekyll Island. But how does CZ and Binance end up making it? How could that even conceivably work? That Gemini basically created the bit license and all this stuff at the New York Attorney General's office, and they proactively regulated themselves and all this stuff. And that's just all fake? The money's still just going to Binance through?
It would be another episode to describe it in detail, how it happens on a small level and a giant level. But let me just cut to the chase. This is that second level of criminality we're calling HFT, trading ahead. Mm-hmm. And what it means is Genesis takes the order from the Winkle tossers and says, I now know all your information. I know what you want to buy, when you want to buy it, when you want to sell it. I get all the information. And Genesis is going to trade against Gemini, right? Now, for stuff that's neutral, maybe the buys and sells from Gemini are coming in exactly equal. Well, Genesis isn't going to make money from that. And if they're large orders, they got to find liquidity.
Sure.
And marketplaces, especially stock exchanges, are gluttons to be monopolies, right? There's only two major equity companies in the entire earth right now.
Yep.
One of which you can just think of as the NYSE and the other's NASDAQ. And if you look up what they all own, it's every bourse in history, right? Like the original Amsterdam bourse is owned by the NYSE, which is CME Group, which also took over the commodities trading for Enron Online, by the way. It's not like right?
Cool.
They own the C-bot, all the commodity exchanges from Chicago, the big, the New York bot, they own that. And then the other one.
It's funny. I point this out. A lot of people don't know this because I always talk about Mastercard because it's the most known name that was involved in the creation of Digital Currency Group. But I think the most crucial one was CME. CME Ventures was at the founding table for Digital Currency Group. So CME went public in 2017 with their futures product and all of that nonsense, but they were actually at the table at the founding in 2014 to kind of create this massive octopus that's in charge of all this stuff. So it's and they're I mean, for people that don't know how money works in Chicago, man, like if you ever have the opportunity to build a building anywhere in city limits, like don't dig into the foundations because then you're going to have police that are so okay. Every building in that city has the missing bodies of people that had consciences, and so it's kind of a rule in Chicago that if you're going to build a new thing, don't break up existing concrete. Just add to it and build up, because the second you do it, somebody okay, there's a human skull in here. Now we got to bring in forensics, and it's very passé. It's like, oh, okay, it's the what's his face? There's the famous one, the Teamsters guy. Why can't I think of his name?
Fist is the name of the movie about him.
Yeah, right.
Hoffa.
Yeah, it's every time you find a skull, like, is it Jimmy Hoffa? Like, oh no, this is that other guy. So it's like 30 or 40 a year every time you're doing a construction project. And it's like, oh, we found the teeth of this missing fellow. Oh, okay, curious. But yeah, no. So Chicago money, CME Group, and all of this stuff. I mean, they are not nice people. Like, they are people who are there to win. I've actually taken the tour at CME. You can still watch paper trading happening at CME Group. They're the only place on earth that still has a pit. Like, guys in jackets doing the thing. They're yelling up and down from the window and the whole thing. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But they also have all this high frequency trading stuff. They're doing all the high tech, the commodities stuff. They're making the markets for like global everything.
Well, DRW, DSW, something for his last name is Wilson. He's got a huge firm. He calls it Cumberland for the cryptocurrency stuff. And he was about as big as Genesis. I don't think as big. And
they're still probably top 2 or 3.
Yeah. I mean, all these trades are ending up on Binance because it's where all the liquidity is, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe Elon Musk isn't going to buy his BTC from Binance because there's legal issues with that.
Yeah.
But if he does it through Genesis and then they go through 7 shell companies and it ends up on Binance, well, who's the wiser, right? I mean, they're all going to abide by the law except for the last guy. And the last guy is the one screwing you, right? Because that's where the liquidity is finally ending up, right? He's the guy making the most money. So what can we do about this?
That was going to be my question. What the hell do we do about it, Jack?
It's actually super simple. Commodities like Bitcoin have an issuer, right? Mm-hmm. And the issuer was Craig Wright. And it's like John Naismith setting down the rules for basketball. Craig set down the rules for Bitcoin. And guess what? There was no dollar price for it. There was no even selling it to people, right? It was come download a piece of software under your PC and get some Bitcoin. Earn it, right? It's the only way to get it. And he didn't run around promising people like this should be $10 a coin and it should be 100 someday, like Vitalik did. Literally, like, was ratcheting up the price as he was selling it to investors, and then keeping most of it in the Ethereum Foundation so that he could basically rig the price up like one of these NFT sales. He wasn't doing any of that. He was just going, "You want it? Come get it. Build the computer. Use your PC. You don't even have to spend money to do it in the early days because it wasn't worth anything anyway, right?" And so this is why Bitcoin passes the Howey test, and this is why it's going to end up being legal, because all Bitcoin is a informational computational commodity. It doesn't have to be traded for fiat. It doesn't have to be traded for anything. It just is, right?
Yeah.
It's what you value it at. And I can explain how SLictionary actually gives BSV its value, Bitcoin its value someday via the value of the definition, such as Michael Jordan's basketball. And that's a whole other topic. It's a really interesting one because most people don't know how commodities get their price. And I know how Bitcoin gets its price. And I've talked to George Gilder. I've talked to a lot of economics PhDs, and they don't know it. They don't know how Bitcoin gets its price. And I can show you in SLictionary to a 10-year-old how BSV will get its fundamental price, not its speculative price, is what it has now, along with all these other things, but its fundamental price. And so this price thing is important. Price matters because what price does is either attract this capital that the Pi 01s and the Unboundeds and the Air Ventures is attracting, or in-chain, or it's not. And I have 30 years of experience to tell you this. Everybody likes to pretend they're me. I'm Mr. Fundamental guy, right? I'm like, I'm going to take all the punishment of down 80%, hang in there and wait for my 10, 5, 8 years and eventually earn the big return, right? That was my motif. Everybody thinks they're that person, but 99% of Wall Street is just like anybody else. They hear the price going up and they're like, what am I missing? What am I missing? I haven't done any work. I don't know anything about any of this stuff. I see the price going up, so there's something behind it. And that's not dumb. That's actually smart because typically, eventually over time, price matters and it shows people where the value is, right? And so in the short term, it doesn't tell you much, just a voting machine, as Warren Buffett says. But in the long term, it's a weighing machine price.
Right.
And Wall Streeters know this inherently. And by Wall Streeters, I'm just referring to people who invest in things like your startup. And so when someone says no to you, even though your idea, they're like, God damn, that's a great idea. But you're on this BSV thing, which is a bunch of criminals. We know that. And look, if they weren't criminals, you wouldn't be number 62 ranked cryptocurrency. You'd be at least in the top 10 or 5 or maybe number 1.
Right, because popularity is always a good indicator of the truth.
In the short term. In the short term, it matters.
For sure.
So when I watch BSV go from 100 to 492 in 2021, I literally can watch the investors. They promised that I've had multi-billion-dollar firms that investing $40 million into BSV startups would be like a fly on a bear's back, right? And I've had them tell me they're sending people to my home to talk about the tens of millions they're going to invest in our little tiny angel fund. Yeah. And then I've had them go away and just give me the silent treatment 2 months later when the price goes from 492 to 104 in 2 months. Yeah. And then while that's happening, Solana's going up 1,000%, right? Because it's rigged by Sam Bankman-Fried himself.
Yes.
Right? So when I watch that happen in real time from someone going, what weekend are you open? Because I'm sending 2 guys down. And I'm like, well, I can do it in like 2 weeks. Do the thing. Okay. And then by the time the 2 weeks is up, it's down 50%. And they're not answering their phone for a little bit. And then I hawk them enough where they finally tell me like, well, this Solana's making us a lot of money. So your thing's not really working. And now you've got this attack that makes you look even worse. So bye-bye. And who loses? I might lose a little bit, but the people who really lose are the people that are building these great businesses that deserve some capital to make their business, to make this thing that's hard to build actually work. Mm-hmm. And you need capital for that. I mean, it's really simple. I know that there's a whole contingent in BSV that wants to do everything the bootstrap way, and there's examples of that. Atlassian is a great one, and it's one out of like the 100 I can think of. Sure. Businesses that have reached, like 100 billion in market cap. The other 999 of them all raised a crap ton of VC capital. So if you're going to bootstrap it, you're like in BSV, which is 1 in a million, it seems these days. And then you're trying to do something that's also 1 in a million. So what's 1 in a million times 1 in a million? It's a lot. Yeah. So what I would tell you is if you're trying to build something hard, you should probably raise some capital. You're not going to get there. And if you want to raise capital, I hate to tell you this, but price matters because it attracts. Now, in the long term, everybody's right. In the long term, fundamentals work, and BSV Bitcoin actually works. I think Like, we haven't had the full experiment yet. From everything I can see,
usually,
it's the only one that can work, right?
Right.
And so, assuming that it's got the only chance of all this crypto crap of working, then it should be getting the capital investment. It should have the speculative bubble. Every single technology I've ever seen has had a speculative bubble. The railroads in the 1800s had a speculative bubble. And what it helps do is funnel a lot of cash towards the cool thing so that someone can win the cool thing. And we can have trains that get you from New York to San Francisco in 1/100th of the time it took, the Wells Fargo chuck wagon to get out there, right? So capital does amazing stuff for everyone. And the fact that a lot of it is speculatively wasted is the price you pay for having it happen in your lifetime. Now, if we all just sit around and wait, and we only wait for the fundamentals, I would tell you this. BSV just might be so badly manipulated if it ever got to the $5 that some people have talked about, that it would just kind of go away and they'd have to go build another one. I don't know. It's impossible for me to know what would happen. But what I would tell you is, why wait? All you have to do is find the good exchanges and reward them with carrot. Say, we're gonna put pressure on the bad exchanges to go away. We're gonna let our people know that if you're trading on Robinhood, bad. If you're trading on Bitfinex of all things, they're literally financing the court cases against Craig, bad. If you're on Binance, bad. If you're even trading on these things, you're financing.
You're giving you're doing business with the enemy. Right. Yeah.
And so, who can do this? I'm not going to be able to do it, right? Like, I can beg everyone not to use Robinhood, right? It doesn't matter. People are going to do it anyway because it's easy. So you're not going to win that battle. But the issuer, the Bitcoin Association, who is now the de facto issuer on behalf of Craig, who's going to hand it down because he can only live so many years, the Bitcoin Association has some power. And they can say, we're the kind of keeper of fairness in this community. And although we don't love having to pay homage to exchanges and the fact that we don't even really care if you trade this stuff for fiat or whatever you're trading it for. Frankly, Bitcoin works independently of any other money. You could have no money at all and it would still work, right? You could trade it for melons or tomatoes. You could do anything. Eventually, it would have a value independent of fiat, right? So it doesn't even need exchanges technically on a fundamental level. So the Bitcoin Association technically and probably even legally has no responsibility to legislate or do anything with respect to exchanges. But it should just anyway, because it's just good practice to be, as a fiduciary, as a person, as an entity whose sole responsibility is to keep the protocol intact, to have it written in stone so that no businesses are screwed when a couple of developers want to change something like this Ordinals thing. Who knows if Ordinals is going to be a business in 3 months, because the core developers could just be like, well, we don't like this because it makes the price go down or whatever, and then we just get rid of it. And then you've collected all this money in your startup to do Ordinals, and now it's just gone, right? Yep. And so this is my crazy pitch that let's pay attention to this stuff. Let's reward, I don't know if Bittrex is, a bunch of honest people, but they seem to be more honest than the rest. So let's give them a shot, right?
Sure.
Let's say, OKX, look, your CEO of one of your organizations literally wrote the nasty passive-aggressive thing against our thing. So why would we want to help you at OKX, which is your kind of non-compliant AML KYC thing, non-KYC thing? Why would we want to help them? We want to encourage people not to use it and maybe even shame them and be like, you know what? Let's give you the benefit of the doubt. So let's say to OKX, look, you trade BSV. Maybe you guys are great dudes, and maybe it's somebody else who's coming on your exchange and doing the nasty stuff. But that's probably via derivatives. So just answer us a couple questions. Where's the volume coming from? Where's this 25 million a day coming from on a Saturday?
Because that's an easy question. Who's the market maker? I mean, that's it,
I don't need names. Just tell me on Saturday, why did BSV trade $15 million worth when Bittrex serves almost the entire United States, which is arguably, the biggest country in the world by investment dollars? How is it they're trading $100,000 or actually probably $20,000 on a Saturday in the middle of the year, and your thing's trading 15 million.
Yeah.
Don't name names. Don't want to know the names of your customers, but just tell me how many customers is it. And I'm not going to take the information. The Bitcoin Association. So they're the trusted, keeper that's going to help these exchanges with the light client and all these things, so that they can actually do the stuff they want to do as an exchange. And there should be a symbiotic relationship. What there shouldn't be is Bitmart just immediately files in the loudest legal district in New York and says, well, this BSV thing really screwed us. And they don't talk to the Bitcoin Association? That's crazy.
Yeah, we got attacked, but there's no evidence except that we said it.
Right.
We didn't keep both chain tips, so we don't have a hash for you. Right.
So now, look, these are all my opinions. Okay, I want to be very clear about that. There's certain exchanges I don't like, and you don't have to take my word for it. But I think we can do this in a very positive way and say, look, we want to support your exchange. And I think the Bitcoin Association is already doing that. So they're already all over the positive thing, but they're just trying to grab more exchanges. And it's like, okay, but if you onboard an exchange to trade BSV and they're not KYC AML compliant and you don't know where their headquarters is and you didn't even talk to the CEO, the owner, or anybody in charge, what do you know about this thing? Like, should we really be celebrating a new exchange coming on board that we didn't even vet? Like, I mean, crazy.
Right. It's just one more place that some predatory guy in Eastern Europe. I've said Eastern Europe a couple of times. Like, there used to be articles about how there was, I think it was 2 firms in Russia that did 90+% of all the market making across all of crypto. And I'd be willing to bet that hasn't changed much. So I don't know with sanctions now, but it would strike me as the same kind of thing. It was a young guy. It was like a 23-year-old at the time. It's going back about 5 years. I think it was like Vox or somebody did an expose. And how does this young man in this city out in Russia like basically manage all of the liquidity for all of Bitcoin? And it was just, I mean, it's crazy. The stuff that's going on is
like the old era, like 2013.
No, this is like 17 or 18. It's not that long ago. So, but that's what's going on. Is there are firms that are not in the U.S. They're offshore somewhere, and they're cooking the books both directions any way they want. And we've seen them cook the books up for guys like Sam and guys like CZ, and because I'm sure the tips are great. And then, so I used to run a Facebook group, a big one for. It was called Crypto Traders Pro. This was the name of the group on Facebook, and I joined it. I joined it because it was 2017, and I had a bunch of people saying, "Hey, it's a pretty good group here. Seems like a bunch of legit guys." So I went and checked it out, and started answering Bitcoin fundamentals. That was all I did. It was just, how does Bitcoin work? Well, here's your wallet, here's your keys, here's all the blockchain. Basically, the same kind of stuff that people know me for now. And I would explain that kind of stuff. And then Matt, who was the dude running the group, was a former serious trader, professional trader. And so he would talk charts, basically. So we had this really good relationship where it was charts and fundamentals. So we talked Bitcoin and we talked technical analysis and other things. And then you start to see how, okay, all of a sudden we've got 50,000 members and 80,000 members and 150,000 members. And so then we've got this massive group of people who are looking for a daily discussion from Kurt and Matt about Bitcoin stuff. And then we start getting exchanges reaching out to us and saying, hey, and I'm not going to name any names, but some of the exchanges still exist. And immediately they're like, hey guys, we'd love to give you an access to our premier referral link influencer program. And if you're willing to put us first, we'd be willing to give you an inside look at the books, and we could even let you know what coins are going to be listed early, and so you can front run the rest of the market and then get everybody to buy. So I mean, they're literally encouraging, and it's not just one exchange. It was like 3 or 4 major exchanges whose names you would know offering us like, hey, you can front run the markets and run a pump and dump, guys. And we had a
Jesus
internal chat about it. Like, okay, we know for a fact there are guys getting very rich doing this nonsense. But we both agreed very quickly. We had about a 5-minute phone call and said, yeah, we're not doing that. And we're not trading on these exchanges, because now if they know that it's us, they know that we rejected their offer. And now we're like a mark for, okay, rob those accounts. Those guys are the ones that didn't, it's like when somebody says, hey, do you want to join the mafia? It's like, you can't be like, nah, I'm good. It's like, okay, now I need to leave the state. I got to go live in Tennessee. Right. So it was very,
and the irony is all these crypto people, they made that same decision, the opposite of you. They all were like, yeah, give me the money and the Lambos and the bikini women, and let me do the thing.
Exactly. And so, I know for a fact this stuff is happening. And it's funny. We got a couple of people here asking, like, hey, are those podcasts out there? Most of them probably are. You can find the old Crypto Traders podcast, which I hosted for a while daily. But yeah, they're out there. There's a whole channel. You can look at younger, thinner, slightly less bald Kurt talking about Bitcoin in probably 16 to 18, like full time.
Right. And
it was just nonsense. And it was me going on about, hey man, I think this is all crap. I think the ICOs are dangerous. I think, all this stuff. And people can literally watch me become a big blocker through those podcasts, because that was the era. And I was like, hey guys, I think Bitcoin Cash is like really legit. I think this is the thing. And it just... Well,
the good thing is the day of reckoning is coming, right? In the short term, you can make a lot of money selling blow to, traders on Wall Street if you're Pablo. But, when you have to kill the president's son on an airplane and kill the other 800 people on board, people are going to come for you eventually, right? Just to save your business. And that's the problem with going the tough way. You get the money quick, but you're always looking over your shoulder.
Right. It's never all the way your money.
Yeah. And look at all the news just today. Like, you got Gensler saying that, pretty much everything but Bitcoin is a security. And I agree with that. If you do the Howey test, it's actually super simple to figure this out. If you do the Howey test on Bitcoin, it's like in the first part of the Howey test where it says invest money. There was no investing money in Bitcoin. It wasn't even mentioned in the white paper unless I'm unaware of it. But there was no sale of anything. There's nothing. The Bitcoin, as they say, fails the Howey test, which basically means it's not a security in the first two words of the test. And so you've got Gensler going after all these things, basically saying, stand by Ethereum because you could be criminally charged. And I believe that Vitalik will be criminally charged on the Ethereum Foundation.
He really could be.
And once you're criminally charged, and this is what people don't understand, friends and neighbors, is, it pays to do crime because look at what was the one that went to the New York Attorney General? Was that Tether? Yeah, Tether paid.
Tether, they got 14 million. Yeah, it was right. A slap on the wrist.
Yeah, the Tether guys are worth like 25 billion.
Yeah.
Right, and they had to pay 18 million. Even if it was 100 million, it doesn't matter.
Sure,
it's water off a duck's back. So crime pays, right? Well, that's just the criminal investigation, right? So the New York Attorney General fought them and made them back down, basically almost admitting criminality. And once you lose the criminal case, that's not the end. Then comes the civil cases. And the civil cases is every single peasant and rich person who's ever lost money in your thing, when the thing inevitably goes down, like FTT in the Sam Bankman-Fried thing, that's when they come after you. Nobody's coming after you because you made them a lot of money. But when the thing goes to zero, right? Like Terra Luna stupid thing with the guy Novogratz' tattoo. When that thing goes to zero, he's got all kinds of money now to come sue your ass. And they just do a big class action. And guess what? You end up with nothing. I think personally, Vitalik will end up with less than nothing. He'll be lucky. I mean, I know Craig sounds crazy when he says all this stuff, and maybe he's overstating it a little bit, but I don't think so, because the civil suits is where you really get nailed. Like, okay, so maybe you're not going to jail right away. When you start losing the civil suits, then maybe they start bringing on some more like, wow, these people really hate this guy. Maybe we should put him in jail. And then it's like the cop, kicking your taillight out before he writes you up for the speeding ticket. He's just going to find all kinds of things to write you up with. And so I think we're seeing this right this second. We just had Gensler go against like all these, pretty much every cryptocurrency on earth. We're seeing Binance is getting hounded. Tether's getting hounded. Anything that doesn't have a headquarters is getting
right.
Like,
Well,
okay,
that's a thing. There's a lot of people acting like we're out of the woods, getting bullish. Hey, we got this new Ordinals thing is going to bring on the new bull market. And it's like, man, there's still smoke pouring out of the headquarters windows of a lot of the pillars of this economy, guys. And, they just haven't found the fire yet. Like, people haven't started diving out those windows. And but it is. There's a lot going on still in the background. And it's getting wild.
Pre-Terra, Luna, and pre-Sam Bankman-Fried, Ray Dalio, the largest, and Blackstone, BlackRock, Larry Fink. These guys were all like dabbling in BTC and going down the Coinbase line, so to speak.
Yeah.
And those days are over. I mean, like, you don't think that they have a bat phone, the red bat phone to Gensler, and be like, hey, what can we do, buddy? Well, it looks like all this stuff is fraud.
And it's incredible. I mean, we're not even, how far are we out from when FTX went bankrupt? Like 4 months, 5 months, maybe? And I mean, people are already like, all right, man, the bulls are back. It's like, guys, the washout hasn't even happened yet. Like, he's barely been harangued. And then, like, all this other, like the stuff with Terra Luna. Like, Terra Luna just had another book thrown at him like a week ago. So there's just...
Fried is like CZ's son, like his son he never had. Like, let me show you the ropes, buddy. And then, St. Sammy did something that CZ couldn't do, which is market to the people of the United States, because he's got the MIT, resume. He's got the political connections. Yeah. And boom, he's doing something that CZ can't do. You think CZ liked that? I doubt it. So, like, no way. There's a little bit of smoke where that fire. There's a little bit of fire where that smoke is, where people are like, well, I think CZ kind of helped take Sammy down. And
100%, 100%.
And I don't think that CZ thought that the poo flinging would stick to him too. And so now he's probably reconsidering what he did. He probably should just let St. Sammy take over the United States crypto stuff.
Well, I mean, that's the thing about a good money laundering ring is you need a couple guys that you can pass stuff around with. And FTX was a major, I think they were the number 2 spot for Tether liquidity. So when they're gone, all of a sudden that's, okay, now it's very obvious when the thing is missing and where it shifted to, and that's incriminating. So,
right,
Jack, I should point out we've been on for an hour and 42 minutes now. Should we wrap it up?
It's up to you. I could go into heavy detail on all kinds of fun things like naked shorting, how the HFTs work, how it's actually these HFT guys have just shifted their little software expertise over to crypto. We could talk about more specifics on each of these exchanges and what I think is going on for real. I mean, there's just all kinds of topics. I think the way I would leave it, though, is that I like to approach every problem from a positive side, because I just think you attract better people that way. And so to me, it's just like, there's the stick, which is probably what we should give OKX, right? I don't believe these numbers. And, to some billionaire who's like, wow, this Kurt Walker guy really convinced me that this Bitcoin commodity can do amazing things. And he showed me SLictionary and these other businesses. Like, I really want to participate. It sounds like the future. And then he's like, but, I can also see that this commodity is going to be valuable, like somebody buying oil in the 1800s. Or Astor buying half of Manhattan in the 1800s. We shouldn't penalize these people. And it's exactly, we're not only penalizing them by the fact that our thing is basically rigged, but like, it's worse than that, because then the money they put in ends up going into the court battle. I mean, do you think that like Ira Kleiman, anybody's taken his case other than Eamon Gunsirer and his buddy Kyle Roach, funded by this mysterious fund, which seems to have this court case seems to generate a lot of inspection by Mr. Barry Silbert. So it seems to me like it's pretty clear where all this money's coming from. And it's like you're being shot with the bullets you created in your own factory are coming back at your head. It's like, oh, money's coming in, and then it just goes right into the enemy's hands, and they use it against you. And so, to me, it's it's gross. I think cryptocurrency is filled with gross people. I block all of them. As soon as you even mention a cryptocurrency, I mean, you're probably not even safe to mention BSV if you say it the wrong way. I block everyone because they're not worth it. I'm not marketing Slictionary to crypto people. They could care less. Crypto people want to make money tomorrow. Like, why is my number not going up right now? I just did your minting. Why am I not able to sell this for a higher price tomorrow? Those are not my customers. They never will be. My customers don't even use crypto. They just think it's going to be cool that you can own a word in the dictionary and collect rent on it, maybe, if we're all, if we all do our job. That's a person just into linguistics. It doesn't care about cryptocurrency at all. Those are the people we bring in. We bring in Nadir, who defines world domination in a really clever way, makes his $500. He's so damn happy. He's making trophies out of it. And he's going to come back. And he's a great guy, right? I know he's a great guy because he does cool shit, right? Like, does work. That's what I want. I don't want lazy people coming in and being like, oh, well, why did my number not go up? So I'm right there with everybody. The Bitcoin Association, I'm on Craig's side. I'm on Calvin's side. Anybody who talks about this stuff, I fully support. What I don't support is screwing people, right? Good business means that you and the person you're doing business with are both happy.
Right. No, amen to that.
That's what it's all about.
I know the licensing and just all the regulation stuff is the nightmare, but what the heck would it take to just build a company that sold Bitcoin in this country? It's like $50 million worth. Yeah. Like, compete with Coinbase and maybe only sell like the Bitcoin basket, nothing else.
I think this, you're not going to be able to charge more than what Bittrex charges, was about 35 basis points, which means 0.35%. And, kind of like, the hires up in BSV say the transaction price should actually go down with time. Yeah. Same thing there, right? If you're looking to charge more than 20 basis points off of every trade from fiat to Bitcoin, in the end of the day, you're not gonna win, right? So whoever does it has to do it like that. And it could be Bittrex, it could be Rock Wallet, it could be someone we don't even like right now. It could be OKX, for all I know, if they clean up their business. I doubt it, but it could be. Yeah. But I think the future is, once you have that, then what's really cool about Bitcoin that's unique to it is that it can be used. It's an informational computational commodity that can be used as money. And so and tokens to make like shares. And I think what would be really cool is the guy who kind of gets his business going from scratch, just allowing, like local Bitcoin sort of did back in the day. They just allow the exchange of fiat, blah, blah, blah. They make it better over time, and it maybe turns into an exchange, and they charge their 20 basis points per trade. They're making some money. They're feeling good. Hey, do an IPO, right? Like, do a real IPO where you abide by the SEC securities laws and don't try and screw people. Yep. And maybe you IPO my company. I would love that. I would love to be like, oh, we're going to go public when we're still small and give people the opportunity. And this is how markets formed, right? The NASDAQ was nothing when I was a kid. Nobody paid any attention to it. And it got so little attention, and the NYSE became so highbrowed and high-chinned that they're like, oh, Microsoft, you're just this tiny little pissant in this weird software thing that nobody thinks is a real business. We're not taking you. Call us back when you get to like $1 billion valuation. And Gates and Apple and all these guys, they were like, piss off. We'll just go to the NASDAQ. They accept everyone. Yeah, we did. And the NASDAQ arguably was bigger than the NYSE about 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So they actually ended up taking on the sort of peasant companies and winning. And I think this same story can happen in BSV. If someone just gets, this little tiny kernel of a thing that makes them a little bit of money, and they just keep thinking and like, what else can we do? Well, if we do BSV for fiat, why not IPO structured linguistics, the parent of Slictionary? And then where are you going to trade Slictionary? Oh, you have to go to this XYZ exchange where they do a little bit of BSV fiat stuff. Yep. And it just grows from there. And if you look at the history of bourses and exchanges and the Intercontinental Exchange, which now owns, they got so big from taking Enron Online's business. They got so big that they actually ended up buying the NYSE, which also bought the Euronext, which is another name for the original stock exchange in Amsterdam. So this tiny little company that was trading electricity futures, and because Enron screwed up their golden goose, they took it over. It's one of the greatest stories ever. I don't know why there isn't movies about it, because it's an amazing story of rags to riches, where some guy just constructed all this software and it was really good, but nobody was trading on it. Didn't have any liquidity. Now he owns the NYSE and the exchange.
It's incredible.
Yeah. And this is, I think, a story that if you're listening and you're like, this sounds really cool, and you maybe have some experience with building exchange software, well, there you go. There's a blueprint. Start with fiat, like local Bitcoin sort of thing, and then move into IPOs for Bitcoin companies.
Sure. It's brilliant.
Look, shouldn't shares be BSV tokens?
Yes.
Is the NYSE going to be able to do that?
Not now.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. So let's get some tailwind. Let's reward the good people, and let's do what the OK Coin CEO did to us. Let's just remind people that maybe OKX, who is willing to have parts of their organization make fun of us, maybe we figure out a way to reveal or ask the pointed questions about whether their liquidity is real. And if they're not able to answer those questions really well, I don't know. Some of us are friends with Gary Gensler, not me, but somebody can just be like, hey, Gary, nice martini you got there, but have you heard about the questions we asked the OKX people about their BSV derivatives and how they couldn't figure out how 25 million was trading? Right. Maybe you should ask the question. Maybe you should send a little message to open them up a little bit. That's what I'd like to see.
Now that's exciting. Jack, always a pleasure. I think we should wrap this up for everyone's sake. No, I mean it, man. I could have this conversation for 5 hours, but I think the longer it goes, the less likely people are to re-watch it. So I think it'd be good to leave. I think if anybody watched the whole thing, they will share it, because I think we have probably half a dozen nuggets of gold at least here, and maybe this can be a series. I mean, I'd love to get into some of the more, let's talk 2 hours about naked shorting. I think that'd be really healthy for people to understand derivatives markets and how many hands you got to shake to make that kind of thing happen. How to print money out of nowhere to kill some other business. But that stuff is important. And ultimately, like I said, I always really appreciate you. I think the shows where you come on are both entertaining but educational as well. So thank you, Jack.
Well, thank you, Kurt. Always a pleasure talking to you, and I'll see you on the flip side.
Yes, sir. All right, everybody. So that was Jack Pitts, the man who has his own startup and knows his money and knows his history and knows about Bitcoin and knows a thing or two about raising a nice family and just being a good dude. So always welcome. And if you're still watching, thank you. I appreciate you. I think you are now officially my best fans if you are currently watching this live. So thanks for being you. I guess do all the things, like, subscribe, hit the alert bell, please share across everywhere. Let them know that we are willing to go there. And if you know somebody who wants to be on the show, or somebody who wants to advertise, somebody who wants to be involved in some way, please put them in touch with me. I'm always looking to do more, have more guests and do more external interviews. I haven't done one in a little while. I was a little quiet at the beginning of the year for various reasons that I've been working on stuff at the Citadel, but I would love to do more external media coming up in the near future too. So if you know somebody who would really like a guest to talk about some interesting stuff, I am also available. And I guess with that, we'll wrap this up. Say thank you, and everybody truly be good to each other, but go hug your family, go do something cool. I'm going to get a drink of water, and I'm going to enjoy the rest of my afternoon. So thanks, everybody. I'm Kurt. Goodbye.
We're creating something epic that brings a new light to the world. The London Blockchain Conference draws everything in. Renowned experts, investors, regulators, global media, developers, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, coming together to network, share ideas, and make a difference. delve into the most engaging discussions about blockchain utility. Explore this technology and learn why you need to bring your enterprise or government body onto the blockchain. The London Blockchain Conference is focused on solutions. It enlightens. Blockchain enables and encourages innovation. Discover and learn about true blockchain-based applications only at the London Blockchain Conference. Will you be part of this revolution?